Play fake to Hyde. Watson dunks it off to Fells. And that's Levante David shutting that down. Ball's out, but he's being ruled down. The replay on the screen right here. The ball is clearly out.
That ball is clearly out.
If they're saying that his forward progress is stopped and Arians can't challenge it, I think Bruce Arians might blow a complete gasket right here.
Interesting thing about a missed call like that, it can be a motivating factor, and it can steal a little bit of momentum for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, because that's something that can galvanize.
Oh no! We suck again!
Welcome back, everybody, to the Bucs Planet podcast. And I just got finished watching the highlights again and some of the film from the game. And let me tell you, that was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I couldn't even actually finish the highlights. I couldn't even get through the first half. I stopped at about midway through the second quarter. I'd seen enough. I said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I'm just going to make this podcast. Of course, I was at the game, but I always like to watch the highlights again right before I make a podcast, just so I can be really refreshed on what happened in the game. But this game was so bad that I actually couldn't even get through that. I mean, we came out of the gates limping. I mean, it's like, have you guys ever seen a horse race, like the Kentucky Derby or something? Do you know what we were like? We were like, right when, they fire the cap gun, and the horses go out and they're all on fast, we would be like, you see in a movie sometimes, it's jokes and stuff. They fire the cap gun, and every horse, and the Texans' horse is going right out there, going as fast as normal. And then our horse comes out, limping, falling over, doesn't know what it's doing. The handler's or the jockey is still asleep. And came out basically on our backs because we have no idea what we're doing. That's exactly what happened on Sunday. We came out and looked like absolute idiots. I have never seen us come out and look that bad right off the bat, and believe me, we do that a lot. But it has never gotten this bad. This was absolutely awful. First drive of the game, pick six. So you knew it was coming. You just knew. Jameis has to throw a pick on the first drive of every game, but this time it was returned for a touchdown. Then it was pick six, and then they kick it off to us. And by the way, we're going to get into a Goomba idiot. A Goomba idiot. We haven't talked about him for a while on the podcast because he's been decent. He's been, I guess, decent at pass protecting. He catches a ball every now and then that gets picks up a first down on a crucial third down. And he does that sometimes. So you're just like, okay, I don't really like you because you fumbled before. You're not a good special teams player, even though you're special teams captain. So let me tell you, you know what? I'll get into him later, okay? Because I'm just going to get super sidetracked with talking about how much I hate that guy. So we're going to talk about how we started off. So they kick the ball off, and then we get the ball, and it seems like I think it was on Jameis' second pass attempt. First down we run it. Then on Jameis' second pass attempt, it was another pick six, forcing the ball over the middle of the field right to the linebacker. It was returned for a touchdown, but a penalty called it back. Fortunately for us. I mean, that's a 14-0 hole basically in the first 30 seconds if that pick six wasn't called back. But either way, the Texans still had the ball at like our 15-yard line. And I'll give our defense credit. They stepped up. They held them to a field goal. And we actually almost got an interception on the very next play because Deshaun Watson is not a very good quarterback, and I will go on record saying that. As of right now, Deshaun Watson is an overrated quarterback. He's not accurate. He doesn't go through his reads. He doesn't go through all of his reads all the time. He gets a little happy feet in the pocket. He tries to run. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes he has guys wide open and he doesn't see the field well. I have analyzed Deshaun Watson since he was at Clemson. And he's basically the same quarterback he was at Clemson. It's just he has this this it factor about him that makes him win games. But when you look at Deshaun Watson, the player, he's very overrated. with his biggest problem in college was accuracy, and his biggest problem now is accuracy. I saw guys running wide open. DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best receivers in the NFL, wide open at our secondary, and he would flat out miss them. And he had several balls that should have been picked off, including the one I'm about to talk about. So after Jameis throws what would have been a second pick six that gets called back, Deshaun Watson takes a shot. It was incredibly underthrown, and Jamel Dean gets two hands on it, but the ball was placed pretty high, so it would have been a hard interception. But a very, very elite corner would have picked that off. Our corner got both his hands on it. And then, of course, the refs call holding on Jamel Dean when it was not holding. I saw the replay multiple times, and they screw us over, give them a first down. But we still hold the Texans, and then now we're down 10-0. So then it looks like we're going down the field and on our next drive, and it's like, oh, we're doing good. And then we throw the ball, Cameron Brate clearly gets face masked. The refs don't call it. We end up having to settle for a field goal, and then our field goal gets blocked. It gets blocked. Now the Texans have the ball at midfield. The Texans we didn't even look like we were ready to play that game, if you want me to be honest. And it gets worse, too. Later in the game, the Texans will fumble the ball. We recover it. Then on the next play, Jameis throws another interception. It looks like maybe Perriman didn't come back in time. I think that one could have been a miscommunication, but still, it wasn't good looking at all. And then the Texans go down and kick a field goal, I believe. And then our next drive, Peyton Barber fumbles the ball. I mean, it was like the worst thing I've ever seen. I mean, I'm like, what am I watching? Why am I spending my Saturday, because the game was played on the Saturday, why am I spending my Saturday watching this garbage? Because that's what this is garbage. I've never seen us come out more flat and stupid looking. And especially, do you know what I think it is? This happened, honestly, it looked like the London game at the beginning. I was like, this is another London game. And honestly, I think Rich Eisen, when he announces our game, we're cursed. Like, I don't know what it is, but every time that man puts on, by the way, he is a horrible announcer. Horrible. And, he seems like a nice guy, I guess, but he just cannot announce, man. I mean, I don't even know what his deal is, but why they stick him on there. But, I mean, you can just tell that this guy doesn't announce a game every week because a lot of people were making fun of him and calling him racist and stuff because he kept saying Deshaun Watson was Jameis Winston. He kept saying Jameis Winston was Deshaun Watson. He kept flip-flopping the names, and, it was kind of embarrassing to listen to because I never listened. I was at the game. I never got to hear the announcers. But when I was watching the highlights, I could hear him, and he kept saying Winston every time Watson was quarterback. And I was like, what is this guy? What the heck? I mean, obviously he's not racist, but that was pretty funny. I was like, this man, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. But Rich Eisen announced the London game. Jameis had 5 picks. Rich Eisen announced this game on NFL Network. Jameis had 4 picks. We lost. So I'm not really superstitious, but I definitely think there's something up with Rich Eisen announcing our games and our games being hosted by NFL Network. I think there's something up there. I don't know what it is, but we just cannot play when we're on national TV and NFL Network announces our games. Just can't do it. So what happened? A lot of people are going to say, nope, you got to get rid of Jameis. You got to do it. And I was on that boat, but you just can't do it. You can't get rid of him. Regardless of how he played in that game and regardless of how he plays this week, you're going to have to keep him. He is the best option at quarterback for next season, given the current draft position, given the current free agency quarterbacks. And for you people that are going to come out and say, sign Phillip Rivers, sign Teddy Bridgewater. What is the point of doing that? You're going to pay a bunch of money to sign Teddy Bridgewater or Phillip Rivers, and it's going to be their first year in the system. And Bruce Arians going to have to teach them all the deals. They're going to have to get used to our team. They've never been in Tampa before. Or he can stick with Jameis, who's been on this team for 5 years. He's already been in Bruce Arians' system for 1 year. He already has chemistry with the wide receivers. And we're not in a draft position to where we can get any rookie quarterbacks and not any good ones. Because what are the big two you're looking at is Joe Burrow and Tua. Okay, and I believe Tua is better than Joe Burrow, but the only reason his draft position fell is because of the injury, which is valid. And you're not going to get either one of those. And honestly, even Justin Herbert, who's kind of the third guy, and they're kind of slept on a little bit. I haven't really looked at him much, though, this year because I hate Oregon, and their uniforms are ugly, and they're on the West Coast, and I hate them. So I don't really watch Justin Herbert that much. So he could be an option, but even then, now they're saying the Colts have one pick ahead of us after we beat them, and everyone's saying the Colts are going to pick Justin Herbert. So even getting Justin Herbert would be a stretch, who I wouldn't really want anyway. Because what I want you guys to think. What do you improve upon for the very next season if you draft a rookie quarterback? Because you have to remember, Bruce Arians is here not to rebuild and do all these things. He is looking to get a team to a Super Bowl within his 3-year contract. And he might sign to a 1 or 2 year extension after this, but that would be it. I mean, he's 67 or 66. And he really is looking at just sending a team on a Super Bowl run and then calling it quits. That's what he's looking for. And if you draft a rookie quarterback, what do you improve upon? Because every single year in the draft, from Bruce Arians' perspective, what he's trying to do, your team needs to improve on something with your first-round pick every year, or you wasted a year, and you cannot waste a year. You can't do it. You have to be improving heavily every year. If we draft a rookie quarterback, what do we improve upon? Do we improve upon the quarterback position? No, we don't, actually. Maybe within 3 years, we'll improve upon the quarterback position once our guys, started for 3 or 4 years. Then you can say, hey, look, now we have a good quarterback. But how does that help us next year? Do you really think that a rookie quarterback, first year in the system, first year in Tampa, first year in the pros, will be better than Jameis Winston? I don't, actually. And he might throw less picks, but I can guarantee you he'll throw for a lot less yards and for a lot less touchdowns. I can guarantee that. And the other problem with getting a rookie quarterback is we need to be using that draft pick on other things we need that will improve our team from this year to 2020. That's what we need to do. We have holes in the secondary. Our defensive line needs to be re-signed. That'll be a podcast in the offseason. So maybe we get a D lineman depending on how we re-sign our players, because we have 3 of our starters, all their contracts are up, and we'll re-sign some. I don't know if we're going to re-sign all. We have an offensive line that has been atrocious. We have a running back issue. Now, I'm not saying you draft a running back in the first round, but somewhere along in the draft, I would not mind drafting one. Maybe not in the first 2 rounds, but maybe 3rd or 4th round at highest. Or maybe we sign someone. I don't know. But those are issues that I would put ahead of the quarterback. If I had to look at Tampa, our issues, this is the order. It goes offensive line, number 1 issue. We have the worst in the NFL, not even disputed. Second issue, secondary. It's played better, but it's still not great. It will get exposed against a good team that's well coached. Third issue, running back. 4th issue, I would say defensive line, but that's really kind of an asterisk because it depends on who we re-sign. So that's kind of there. And then the quarterback position. There are several players in this draft that we could draft at for an offensive tackle. And I believe that our first-round pick should be invested into an offensive lineman because our offensive line is terrible. Jameis has never had a good one. And this is another thing with the rookie quarterback. He's going to be going into a system. Sure, he has good wide receivers. He's going to have the worst offensive line in the league. He's going to have no run support at all to help him. So he's going to be basically stuck in the exact same situation Jameis is, which is a horrible one. You have to bring Jameis back. And not only do you have to bring him back next year, you honestly have to bring him back the year after next. Unless we just absolutely tank and get a top 10 draft pick or a top 5 draft pick. I mean, I would not be mad if we signed Jameis to a 2-year deal. 2 to 3. I really wouldn't. It's frustrating and it's annoying to think about. But you have to put all your eggs in one basket, and we're kind of stuck with what we're stuck with right now. Under Bruce Arians, he's not into rebuilding. We're not going to rebuild while he's here. That's a fact. we're really just getting loaded up to fire for a Super Bowl run. That's what he's here to do. And we have to understand that, and us fans have to accept that, and then look at what should our strategy be. And our strategy should be draft an offensive lineman in the first round because our offensive line is terrible. And specifically, we need an offensive tackle because DeMar Dotson is 80 years old, and he sucks. I mean, it's awful. I can't watch him. And we have no depth at the offensive line position. We've seen what happens when one of our starters, because by the way, our starters aren't even good. And when they get injured, our backups are even worse. So on top of the fact that our offensive line sucks, there's absolutely no depth to it either, because once our starters are out, it's like you might as well just wave the white flag and call it a game because it's over. I mean, Josh Wells, have you seen that guy play at the tackle position? Terrible. We need to draft an offensive tackle. And there are several good ones that are supposed to go in the first round, and I bet you we could pick one of them. I know what some of you probably said when I said we are not in the draft position to pick a good quarterback. You're probably saying, well, why don't you trade up and get a rookie quarterback? Get one of the good ones. Get Tua or Justin Herbert. Trade up. Do you know what the problem with trading up is? Good teams in the NFL can trade up in the first round, past probably 10 slots. Good teams can afford to do that. Do you know why? Because they don't need their first round pick as much. They don't need future picks in the draft as much. A good example, because what you want to do is you want to have a loaded team, and then you trade your draft pick to get a rookie quarterback. Because you want to put a rookie quarterback in the easiest situation as possible. That's the goal. It doesn't always work out like that. It's not going to work out like that for Joe Burrow. It's not going to work out like that for Tua. But ideally, the way to breed success is exactly how the Kansas City Chiefs did it. They had a veteran quarterback for several years, Alex Smith. They loaded up their defense. I know it's not very good now, but it was loaded at the time. They loaded up their offense with weapons like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and they signed Sammy Watkins. They did all these things. And then they beefed up their O-line. They got a good running back. And then when the Chiefs had like the 20-something pick in the draft, they traded up into the top 10 picks to get a top 10 pick, and specifically the number 10 pick. And they drafted Patrick Mahomes. They let him sit for a year, and now he's the MVP of the NFL. That's exactly how you want to do it. And that's exactly how the Bucs need to do it, because when we drafted Jameis, we gave him absolute crap. And to be honest, he still has absolute crap. I mean, not only when we had the number one pick and we were the worst team in the NFL, we picked Jameis Winston. And it's like, wow, this team is absolute crap. He still has that crap. It's the same issues. No running game at all. If we go and get a rookie quarterback right now, he will be stuck in the garbage that we have surrounded by him. Sure, he'll have Evans. Sure, he'll have Godwin. OJ will probably drop 100 passes. Cameron Braid, I don't even know if he's going to be here next year. Worst offensive line in the league, no running game. It's going to be all up to this rookie quarterback. Do you trust any rookie quarterback to have that much pressure on them and take us to a Super Bowl within the next 2 years, next 2 to 3 years, and even make a playoff run? No, I don't at all. So we need to start loading up here. We need to just load up. Get some linemen. Get maybe a corner or two. And please, if they're bust, I'm just going to shoot Jason Light. So, because I'm so tired of him picking corners. But, you have to do what you have to do. And we need more depth at the position. We need more depth at the offensive line position, defensive line, offensive line. I mean, we have so many holes other than the quarterback position. So, if I'm going to be honest, we need to not draft a quarterback or sign one, and we need to bring back Jameis. And I understand people are going to disagree with that, but that's okay because, look, I mean, I know what I'm right, so, I don't really need, you guys to say anything, but it's the only option we have, really. So we just got to roll with it, and hopefully he can bring his picks down because this is by far the most picks he's ever thrown in a season. So obviously he needs to get that down, and he probably won't. But as of right now, we just need to load up. Not quarterback time yet. Maybe in the future. Maybe we get Trevor Lawrence next year. Maybe we get Justin Fields. Maybe we just sign Jameis to 2 years, and we just keep waiting and waiting. But we need to have a good team surrounding this rookie quarterback. And next year is not the year to do it. So I will be irritated if we get rid of Jameis. And you guys honestly should be too. So Jameis was not the only idiot of the game on Saturday. He was not the only idiot. I'll tell you who was also an idiot. And you might say he had no fumbles, he didn't drop a pass. But let me tell you, Dare Agumbawale, but as we know him on this show, Dare Agumba Idiot. This guy cannot kick return to save his life. I don't know why he's back there. First of all, our special teams coach needs to be fired. I've been very impressed with this whole coaching staff except our special teams coach. He sucks, and he needs to be fired because Dodo Wilson was back there, and he averaged 2.1 yards per punt return, and it's like, oh, well, so we cut Dodo Wilson, and then we put in these other idiots, and they also can't get any punt return yardage. So are you trying to tell me that no matter who we have back there returning, that they're just bad? We just have the worst punt returners in the league? Maybe. But I think it's a lot because of blocking, which we never have. We've never, ever had good blocking on a punt return or a kick return ever in my whole life. I've never seen it for the Bucs, ever. And we have this special teams coach that doesn't tell our players, specifically a Goomba idiot, when to just, kneel the ball, fair catch it, and get the ball at the 25. Every single time, it doesn't matter where it's kicked, Dare Agumbawale brings it out and cannot get more than 15 yards. And he has no vision. No wonder he's not a starting running back. He never gets a carry in the game. The only time he plays is when we throw a ball to him because this guy has no vision at all. I was watching kick returns where he catches it, and I'm looking at he goes left where all these hundreds of thousands of linemen and big guys are there, and when he could have just run right, and there's no one in sight. I'm looking at the right side of the field, and there's no one in the whole angle at all. I had a good view because we're at my season tickets are at the corner of the end zone, and I can see the whole field very well, especially on kick returns, especially the kick coverage. And there's no one on the right side because all he does is he just runs forward. It doesn't matter. He can't juke. Don't even get me into that. He has no agility at all. He can't juke. He cannot change directions. He cannot stop on a dime. He can't do anything that a good kick returner can. So is he a good kick returner? Obviously not. You don't even have to see him return one kick in your life to understand that. He just runs forward and falls down. That's just what he does. Oh, if you think he's breaking a tackle, next joke. Next joke if you think he's going to break a single tackle. If a eagle flies over the stadium and one of its feathers falls off and lands on a Agumbawale's helmet, he's going down. It is diver down Titanic mode when something touches that guy. It is over. But he's our kick returner. Yeah, that's good. That's good coaching. That's good personnel management by our special teams coach. So maybe we had our other kick returner who was decent, TJ Logan. He was decent. Not great. He was definitely below average. But below average is better than god-awful, which is what we're used to. So that's why I'm going to call him decent. But any other team in the NFL would call him not good. But we call him decent on this show because that's decent for us, below average. That's acceptable for us. And he got injured with a season-ending injury, so I understand they're kind of at a, they don't have much options. But the part I don't understand is there's a new rule in the NFL. If you fair catch it or kneel anywhere between the goal line and the 25-yard line, you automatically get the ball at the 25-yard line to prevent more kick returns. It's the NFL's new safety rule. There's They're trying to, promote less kick returns so that people don't get hurt as much. So I don't understand. If I have a guy like a Goomba idiot back there, and I'm like, this guy is basically our third string returner because we have Bobo Wilson, cut him, then we have TJ Loken, season-ending injury. Now we have a Goomba Wally back there. He's basically our third string kick returner. Why would you have him do anything other than fair catch every single play unless the ball is basically kicked at the 10-yard line? Which even then, there was one kick that went, I think, to like the 8 or 9, and he literally got 6 yards and fell over like a freaking idiot. Sorry, it makes me so mad when I think about this guy because it's like, what are you doing on a football team? Why are you on this roster? Why do the coaches like you? Why are you in the game? It's just questions that a person with a brain that watches football would ask themselves logically. And I just don't understand why we would not tell him to just kneel every play, because that's all he needs to do is catch the ball, kneel, get the ball at the 25. Every single drive that, I'm not kidding, I watched the highlights, even the pick sixes that Jameis threw on the opening drives. We had the ball at the 12, the 15, the 14, every single time. I mean, our field position, I want to see the stat. I want to see the stats on our average starting field position from a kick return. We have to be at least, on average, 10 yards behind every other NFL team. Because we start every drive at the 15 guaranteed. Well, it ain't getting past that. That's a fact. I mean, think about how much of a difference that makes if your drives every single time start at the 15 and the other team you're playing, their drive starts at the 25 every time. That's a first down difference. That's the difference between a 50-yard field goal, 40-yard field goal. You know what I mean? It makes a difference. It adds up over time. It makes your drive have to be that much longer. And it's hard. It's harder to score. It's proven statistically. The worse your field position is, the harder it is to score. And we have the worst field position every single drive. And another thing that I don't understand is even our punt returner, Justin Watson. First of all, I don't even know why he's back there returning punts. Because against the Detroit Lions, I don't know if you guys watched that game, he backpedals, he falls over. The ball could have fit his hand. We got lucky. It ended up bouncing out of bounds. And he doesn't call fair catches either, even though we don't have any blocking. So I don't know what if I was a special teams coach, I would look at the punt returner and kick returner and say, I would say fair catch every time. Kneel every time. I would say that every single time. And what do? Not that. Because I see this guy, Watson, returning, and he catches the ball, runs about a foot, and then gets clocked by the Texans special teams coverage. And I'm like, one of these times we're going to fumble because we're idiots. And when we could have fair caught the ball and not risk going 1 foot at the expense of a fumble, potentially. So that's just what we do. And I'm tired of it. And another thing that doesn't make any sense is then at the very end of the game, the game's basically over. Okay, it just is. Jameis threw a pick. We stopped him, but it's over. There's 30 seconds left or something. And the Texans punt the ball. And if you're a 7-year-old punt returner for your Pop Warner or YMCA team, you're taught that you don't fair catch the ball inside the 10-yard line, especially not the 5-yard line, ever. Because the ball's going to bounce, most likely go into the end zone, and then your team gets the ball at the 20-yard line. So you should never fair catch the ball under any circumstances ever inside the 5. So you're taught that when you're probably 6 years old. That's when you're probably taught that information. So you would think that a professional football player for an NFL team would understand that. But not our idiots. We did a fair catch at the 4-yard line. Isn't that nice? You're down by 3 points. There's 30 seconds left. You're going to have to get into field goal range really quickly. We don't have any timeouts. And our idiot fair catches the ball at the 4-yard line. A special teams coach needs to be fired. Adare Agumbawale needs to be cut. I'm tired of it. I can't stand our special teams. And we let up a blocked punt, too. So I'm tired of having the worst special teams in the NFL year in and year out. It happens every time. And, special teams is a good indicator of how good your depth is, because most of your special teams is backups at the position. You have a lot of backup linemen in there for blocking, a lot of backup linebackers on the kick coverage. You have backup corners that are gunners on punt coverage. So special teams is a good indication of how much depth you have. And we clearly have no depth because our special teams suck every year. And that's, again, exposing Jason Light. And we will never be a good team until we get rid of Jason Light. And I'm still backing that. Just because we have good coaches now that make our bad players seem less bad doesn't mean he's a good general manager. I can tell you that right now. And also the refs. Well, I'm going to go through one by one the calls they blew. It was absolutely horrible. I mean, the refs almost played worse than we did, and we played pretty bad. So, the holding call on Jamel Dean that gave the Texans a first down after Jameis threw a pick. That was not a holding whatsoever, and it gave the Texans a first down, and it made this field goal shorter. Next, the face mask on Cameron Brate. That was not called. Absolutely horrendous. Then on 4th and 2, this was like a Dirk Cutter play. It was absolutely horrible. I don't even know how it worked. We pitched the ball out on 4th and 2 to Peyton Barber, and he runs for a first down. It's called back because of a holding call. And I can tell you, that was the softest holding call I think I've ever seen. And that cost us our drive because it was 4th and 2. We pick up a first down. Oh, holding. And then, by the way, we kick a field goal that gets blocked. That's how that ends, just so you guys know. There was a pass interference. It was obviously pass interference. The Texans defender wasn't looking at the ball. In fact, the ball hit the back of his helmet. That's how you know he wasn't looking at the ball. And he had both of his hands wrapped around and holding our wide receiver's shoulder pads. So it wasn't called pass interference. So we challenged it. And then after they review it, they still don't call it. Why have the rule of challenging pass interference if they never call it? It has like almost below a 35% acceptance rate. I don't understand why that's a rule. Wait, I remember. Sean Payton and the New Orleans Saints had a bad call against them, so we had to change the league. I'm tired of the New Orleans Saints dictating the NFL. And I've already talked about that, so we're not going to talk about it again. But I can guarantee you if the Saints challenged that play, it would have been overturned before they even looked at the replay. They would have been like, oh, guys, Sean Payton is not happy. Oh, reverse the play, and pass interference, first down, touchdown, Saints win. Game over. Then, it actually gets worse, believe it or not, because this was honestly a momentum changer. Deshaun Watson flips a pass out to the tight end, and he doesn't even get to the line of scrimmage before Levante David, very good linebacker, snubbed from the Pro Bowl, is all over him. And you guys have already seen this video because I put it at the beginning of this video. He fumbles the ball, but the refs, and we recover the fumble. But the refs ruled the play dead already. Give me a break. How often does that happen? The guy, the play was ruled dead already. When he clearly fumbled, the refs didn't call it, and we don't have a challenge to call it. So basically, the refs just said the play was dead already to bail them out of a horrible play. That's what they did. Something else that they messed up on. On our last drive, before Jameis threw the game-sealing pick, Brashad Perryman was clearly hit helmet to helmet in the head. It was intentional targeting, and it wasn't called. And it was actually so bad that Brashad Perryman went through concussion protocol and had to leave the game because of that. He came back later for like the last 20 seconds, but he had to leave the game because he was hit in the head. and the refs didn't even call that. So that's about 5 blown calls that could have changed the whole ball game. Well, we're back. We're back to losing. I missed it. I do want us to win this last game, though. I think it's important to finish 500. I still think that's a pretty good accomplishment for Bruce Arians to be able to finish 8-8 after what he was handed, which is an absolute heaping pile of garbage of a roster. This is outside of our wide receivers and maybe our defensive line. So, yeah, that's going to do it for this one. And, we have our last game coming up on Sunday, so make sure to watch it because it's going to be about 7 months from next Sunday until you get to see another Buccaneer football game. And this is going to be my last home game before I go to college, so it's definitely going to be semi-emotional. And I'm looking forward to it, though. So until I make a podcast next time, I'll see you guys later, and go Bucs.